European Union delays retaliation for US tariffs. Israel admits error as children killed in strike. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Mohana Priya. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen said that Brussels would continue to hold off on hitting back at US steel and aluminium tariffs as it seeks a deal to avoid broader 30% levies. US President Donald Trump on Saturday threw months of painstaking negotiations into disarray by announcing that he would hammer the 27-nation bloc with the sweeping tariffs if no agreement is reached by 1st of August. Von der Leyen confirmed the US sent a letter with measures that would come into effect unless there is a negotiated solution, so the EU would also extend the suspension of its countermeasures until early August.
We have always been very clear that we prefer a negotiated solution. This remains the case, and we will use the time that we have now till the 1st of August.
The move by von der Leyen will spur hope that Trump's latest threat has not killed off the progress made in negotiations so far between Brussels and Washington. Brussels has readied duties on US goods worth around 21 billion euros in response to the levies Trump slapped on metal imports earlier this year. But it announced in April it was holding off on those measures to give space to find a broader trade agreement with the Trump administration. Meanwhile, as US leader Trump upends global commerce, the EU chief and Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto announced a political agreement to conclude a long-awaited free trade deal.
We're living in turbulent times, and when economic uncertainty meets geopolitical volatility, partners like us must come closer together. So today we're taking a big step forward in this partnership. Full and clear.
Von der Leyen further said there is a lot of untapped potential in the trade relationship, highlighting that the new agreement will open new markets and create more opportunities in key industries. Prabowo, meanwhile, called the announcement in Brussels a breakthrough. He noted that both sides have concluded the agreement to have a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which is basically a free trade deal. The 27-nation European bloc and Southeast Asia's largest economy have been negotiating since 2016 to agree on a deal that is expected to increase trade and investment. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi has arrived in Auckland, New Zealand for a 5-day working visit, marking Malaysia's strong commitment to deepening bilateral ties. The visit also opens new opportunities across trade, education and the halal industry. Shamimi Saripan reporting from New Zealand, Auckland.
Malaysia's current aspirations are closely aligned with New Zealand's economic agenda, reinforcing a shared commitment to long-term cooperation. This visit builds on the foundation of a previously signed strategic partnership between both nations.
Lawatan YAB Timbalan Perdana Menteri ini bertepatan dengan bukan hanya aspirasi negara kita, aspirasi juga bagi kerajaan New Zealand untuk memperkukuhkan hubungan ekonomi dua hala. So kita dah sign strategic partnership. Kita berharap agar dengan adanya lautan-lautan rasmi high-level visit ini, kita boleh expedite ataupun ditingkatkan kepada comprehensive strategic partnership, dan ini bermulalah dengan lawatan kerja-kerja sebegini oleh high-level visit lah from both parties, from both countries.
The focus of the visit spans key sectors, including defence, education, agriculture, the halal industry and strategic investment.
Definitely sektor pendidikan lah yang kita tumpukan. But after, many years have gone kan, lepas tu perdagangan dua hala kita dari segi ekspor daging halal, tenusu, I think kita dah nampak potensi New Zealand. New Zealand is its niche, quality meat, dairies, very niche. Jadi kita nampak bahawa itu perkara-perkara yang kita boleh orang kata apa, for New Zealand, it is something that we can tingkatkan kerjasama antara New Zealand dan Malaysia.
This visit is not just a meeting between leaders, but a chance to plan important action together in key areas. From discussions at the table to exploring new investment is a clear move towards a stronger and more active partnership between both countries. Shamimi Saripan, Auckland, New Zealand, RTM.
In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Police Minister Senzo Mukunu with immediate effect amid serious corruption allegations. The move follows claims made last week by a provincial police chief accusing Mukunu of receiving payments from a corruption suspect and interfering in investigations to protect politically connected individuals.
The 6th of July 2025.
Mukunu, who has denied the allegations, is a prominent figure in the ruling African National Congress, ANC, and was even considered a potential successor to Ramaphosa from the party's centrist wing. In a televised address, the president also announced the formation of a judicial commission of inquiry. Its mandate is to investigate the involvement of current or former senior officials in criminal activities. The commission is expected to deliver interim and final reports within 3 and 6 months. Law professor, ANC member Firoz Chachalia has been appointed as the interim police minister. South Africa continues to grapple with high levels of corruption, ranking 82nd globally in Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. Former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, who led his country first as a junta strongman and later as an elected Democrat, died at the age of 82. Current President Bola Tinubu said in a statement that his predecessor passed away in London following a prolonged illness. Buhari governed Nigeria with a strong hand as a military ruler in the 1980s before reinventing himself as a converted Democrat, serving 2 terms from 2015 to 2023. Tinubu said Buhari championed discipline in public service, confronted corruption head-on, and placed the country above personal interest at every turn. He added he had ordered Vice President Kashim Shettima to go to England to accompany Buhari's remains back to Nigeria. He also ordered flags to fly at half-staff. Buhari's frequent trips to medical treatment during his presidency attracted criticism about transparency and worries about leadership during some of his longer absences. Although the nature of his ailment was never made public, Buhari once confessed that he had never been so ill during one trip and he had received several blood transfusions. A small plane has crashed at London Southern Airport, forcing its closure. A video footage showed a 12-metre plane in flames with a plume of black smoke at the facility in Southern-on-Sea, east of London. Describing it as a serious incident, Essex Police said they had been alerted a little before 4 p.m. local time and they are working with all emergency services at the scene. They also evacuated a nearby golf club and rugby club as a precaution. The East of England Ambulance Services said it had sent 4 ambulances and other response vehicles. A statement from London Southern Airport confirmed that there had been a serious incident and it announced the airport's closure until further notice. It explained that all flights to and from the airport had been cancelled while police, emergency services and air accident investigators are attending the incident. Southern-on-Sea is about 65 kilometres east of the capital and the airport is the 6th largest airport in the London area. Indonesian rescuers have located the wreckage of the Tunu Pratama Jaya ferry, which capsized in the Bali Strait on the 2nd of July. Now, the vessel was discovered lying upside down on the seabed by an underwater search team on Saturday. According to the National Search and Rescue Agency, Basarnas, visual images of the sunken ferry were also captured during the underwater mission. The findings will be formally reported to Basarnas and the Indonesian Ministry of Transportation. The ferry, carrying 53 passengers, 12 crew members and 22 vehicles, departed from Ketapang Port in East Java and capsized en route to Gilmanuk Port in Bali. As of Saturday evening, the search and rescue team had confirmed 18 deaths, with 30 people rescued and 17 people still missing. Basarnas has since extended the search operation until today, citing humanitarian considerations after an earlier 3-day extension ended last Friday. The agency said it would reassess the situation before deciding on any further extensions. Several people were injured in a second night of anti-migrant unrest in the Spanish town of Torre Pacheco after a pensioner was beaten up. Local media reported that despite a major police presence, groups armed with batons roamed the streets looking for foreign origin people. The regional government did not reveal the exact number of injured people, but stated that at least one person has been arrested for the violence. The unrest erupted after a 68-year-old man told Spanish media that he was beaten up in the street last Wednesday by 3 youths of North African origin. The attack was filmed and posted on social media. The town hall then organized a demonstration on Friday that was intended to be peaceful, with protesters shouting anti-migrant slogans. Spanish authorities launched an appeal for calm in the town of 36,000 people. The head of the Murcian regional government, Fernando Lopez Miras, said Torre Pacheco must get back to normal, saying that he understands the frustration, but nothing justifies violence. Still ahead, Trump announces Patriot missile support for Ukraine.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan penjimatan 5 bintang.
You're watching World Today. Israeli airstrikes killed more than 100 Palestinians, including at a market and a water distribution point, as talks for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas stalled. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency spokesman Mahmoud Basal said at least 139 people were killed in the latest Israeli strikes, including 12 at a Gaza City market. Elsewhere, he said 8 children were among the victims of a drone strike at a water point in the Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza. Commenting on the civilian casualties, Israel's military admitted there was a technical error with the munition, causing it to fall dozens of meters from the target. More than 58,000 Palestinians, most of them civilians, have been killed in Israel's military campaign in Gaza so far. Delegations from Israel and Hamas have now spent a week trying to agree on a temporary truce to halt 21 months of devastating fighting in the territory. But on Saturday, each side accused the other of blocking attempts to secure an agreement at the indirect talks in the Qatari capital, Doha. Hamas wants the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, but a Palestinian source with knowledge of the talks said Israel had presented plans to maintain troops in more than 40% of the territory. And on a related note, an Israeli proposal to move Gazans into a so-called humanitarian city has come under intense fire, slammed by critics as a costly distraction at best and at worst a potential step towards forcing Palestinians off their land. Israel unveiled a plan which envisions building from scratch a closed zone in southern Gaza during the potential 60-day ceasefire currently under negotiation in Qatar. The area would initially house around 600,000 displaced people from southern Gaza and include 4 aid distribution sites managed by international organizations. The entire civilian population of Gaza, comprising more than 2 million people, would eventually be relocated there. Critics, however, have questioned both the feasibility and ethics of the plan, with the expert pointing to lack of infrastructure in the area necessary to accommodate so many people. The Palestinian Authority was scathing in appraisal of the proposed facility, with its foreign ministry saying the humanitarian city has nothing to do with humanity. That view was echoed by the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, which said the plan would de facto create massive concentration camps at the border with Egypt. Britain's Minister for West Asia and North Africa, Hamish Falconer, said he is also appalled by the idea. He stressed that Palestinian territory must not be reduced and civilians must be able to return to their communities. Meanwhile, a Gaza-bound boat carrying pro-Palestinian activists and humanitarian aid left Sicily over a month after Israel detained and deported people aboard a previous vessel. The Handala, operated by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, left the port of Syracuse carrying about 15 activists. The former Norwegian trawler, loaded with medical supplies, food, children's equipment and medicine, will sail for about a week in the Mediterranean, covering roughly 1,800 kilometers in the hopes of reaching Gaza's coast. The boat will make a stop at Gallipoli in southeastern Italy, where two members of the hard-left France Unboat Party are expected to join. The initiative comes 6 weeks after the departure of the Madeleine, another ship that left Italy for Gaza, transporting aid and activists, including Greta Thunberg. Israeli authorities, however, intercepted the Madeleine about 185 kilometers west of Gaza's coast. In early March, Israel imposed a total aid blockade on Gaza amid an impasse in truce negotiations, only partially easing restrictions in late May. Russia's Foreign Affairs Ministry has described reports claiming that President Vladimir Putin had encouraged his Iranian ally to accept a zero-enrichment agreement on its nuclear program as defamation. A U.S. news outlet previously reported that Putin had encouraged Iran to accept a deal with the U.S. that would prevent the Islamic Republic from enriching uranium. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the article appears to be a new political defamation campaign aimed at exacerbating tensions around Iran's nuclear program. It added repeatedly Russia has emphasized the necessity of resolving the crisis concerning Iran's nuclear program exclusively through political and diplomatic means, and expressed its willingness to help find mutually acceptable solutions. Tehran is suspected by Western countries and Israel of seeking to develop an atomic bomb, which it denies, defending its non-negotiable right to develop a civilian nuclear program. Moscow has a cordial relationship with Iran's leadership, and publicly it has defended Tehran's right to use nuclear technology for civilian purposes. In another development, President Donald Trump announced that the U.S. will send Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine as tensions with the Russian President Vladimir Putin continue to escalate. The weapons package is part of a broader strategy shift, signaling stronger U.S. military support for Ukraine and greater financial responsibility from NATO allies. The agreement will require NATO to cover the full cost of some U.S. weapons supplied to Kyiv. He did not specify the number of systems that will be delivered, but confirmed they will be included in a new defense deal.
I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it, but we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need.
Trump said the decision comes amid growing frustration with the ongoing Russian attacks. He had previously expressed hopes of working with Putin to end the war, but has grown increasingly critical as missile strikes continue. U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg is scheduled to visit Ukraine today to continue talks, while Trump is also set to meet NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He is expected to make a major announcement on Russia during that meeting. Elsewhere, President Emmanuel Macron has called for a massive boost to France's defense spending, saying that freedom in Europe is facing a greater threat than at any time since the end of World War II.
Le budget des armées en 2017 était de 32 milliards d'euros. S'ajoutera à la loi de programmation militaire actuelle un effort de 3,5 milliards d'euros en 2026 et de 3 milliards d'euros supplémentaires l'année suivante. Nous consacrerons donc 64 milliards d'euros pour notre défense en 2027. C'est le double du budget dont les armées disposaient en 2017.
Macron also called for mobilization for national defense by all government departments, saying that everyone must be present at their battle stations. He rejected, however, any financing of the additional defense spending through additional debt. French military and security officials have been warning of global threats weighing on France, with Defense Chief of Staff Chief Thierry Boucard saying that Russia posed a durable threat to Europe. He also warned of the consequences of a diminished U.S. commitment to Europe, along with cyber threats, disinformation campaigns, and the risk of terror attacks. Now, police were out in full force in Lexington, Kentucky, after a gunman killed 2 women at a church in Kentucky and shot and wounded a state trooper outside an airport before police were able to shoot him to death. According to Lexington Police Chief Lawrence Weathers, the suspect fired at the state trooper after being pulled over near the Bluegrass Airport in Fayette County. The shooting happened on a road that rings the airport but was not connected to its operations. The trooper was taken to a nearby hospital and is stable condition. The suspect then carjacked a vehicle about 16 kilometers from the airport and fled to Richmond Road Baptist Church, where the individual began firing at people on the church grounds. Weathers said 2 women were killed at the church and 2 men were also wounded, with one of them in critical condition. Authorities, however, did not provide the suspect's name nor age. Coming up next in sports, Palmer fires Chelsea past PSG to Club World Cup.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
Cole Palmer scored 2 goals and made another as Chelsea stunned Paris Saint-Germain in the final of the Club World Cup, beating the European champions 3-0 at the MetLife Stadium to win the first edition of FIFA's new competition. Liverpool fans greeted the team's players outside Preston North End's Deepdale Stadium as the club paid tribute to late forward Diogo Jota. The English champions ran out 3-1 winners in a pre-season friendly 10 days after Jota and his brother Andre Silva died in a car crash in Spain on the 3rd of July. Tributes to Jota were the main focus of the match, with many fans carrying banners, scarves and T-shirts. The club announced last Friday that they would permanently retire Jota's number 20. Forward Cody Gakpo made a 20-hand gesture to supporters after sealing Liverpool's victory late in the match against Preston. Prior to the match, the Reds delayed the return of players to pre-season training as most of them attended Jota's funeral in Portugal last week. Head coach Arne Slot earlier told the club's in-house media that it had been difficult for the team to get back to work after Jota's death, and he had also suggested to his players that perhaps the best way forward is to follow their late teammates' shining example. Slot said that the 28-year-old, who played a key role in Liverpool winning the Premier League title this past season, was one player he could always count on in difficult moments. And in tennis, Jannik Sinner dethroned defending champion Carlos Alcaraz 4-6, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 to lift his maiden Wimbledon title, gaining sweet revenge for his painful defeat in the French Open final. Now, the world number 1 is now the first Italian to win at the All England Club and now has 4 Grand Slams to his name at the age of 23. Sinner stayed ice cool after losing the first set, with the momentum quickly shifting and wrapped up victory in a shade over 3 hours. He had squandered 3 championship points in the final at Roland Garros 5 weeks ago, but this time made no mistake as he served out for victory. Sinner said he was living his dream, prompting an eruption of cheers from the centre court crowd. The tennis world has been captivated by the developing rivalry between the players to follow the storied Big Three era of Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Prior to the victory, Sinner had lost 5 consecutive times against Alcaraz, including the final of the Italian Open. Sinner and 2-time defending champion Alcaraz have now shared the past 7 Grand Slam titles between them, with the Italian winning 4 of those. Meanwhile, 8 seeds Veronika Kudermetova and Elise Mertens fought back from a set down to win their first Grand Slam as a pair, beating Xie Su-wei and Yelena Ostapenko 3-6, 6-2, 6-4 in the Wimbledon women's doubles final. It was the first major title for Russia's Kudermetova, while Belgian Mertens won her 5th Grand Slam in the category and a second Wimbledon triumph after her 2021 win with former partner Xie. Kudermetova held to go 3-1 up in the first set, but the 4th seeds then won 5 straight games. Kudermetova held the charge in the second set, holding twice as the pair got 3 breaks in a row to force a third set. Xie won a prolonged exchange with Kudermetova from the baseline to get the first break of the third set before Ostapenko held without losing a point to go 4-2 up. But erroneous returns from Xie hit the net as the 8th seeds broke back and Kudermetova held to go 5-4 up before Ostapenko went long to lose a 26-shot rally and bring up the match point. Kudermetova's backhand from close range cut across the court to secure the match. And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, European Union delays retaliation for US tariffs. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Mohana Priya, Malaysia MADANI, Rakyat, Disantuni. Thank you for watching.